Do you constantly think of negative thoughts? If so, stay tuned and I will teach you how to shift your thoughts today. What is going on, everyone? We are back for another episode of Prospering with Christ. I hope that you had a wonderful week last week, and I hope that this week will be just as amazing to you as well. So for today's episode, we are discussing how to let go of negative thoughts. And I am so excited to talk about this today because this is something that a lot of people experienced. This is something that hinders a lot of people from experiencing their breakthroughs and seeing the hand of God move in their lives, but they don't realize it. They put themselves out there on faith and they try and they seek God and nothing works, and then they get upset with God. But what they fail to realize is that God isn't moving because the thoughts and the mindset that they have is stopping and blocking him from getting through in their lives. A lot of us don't understand that we are what we think. The way that we speak, the way that we respond to things, the things that we say, the way that we act, the things that we do is a direct result of what we are thinking. And if we continue to meditate on negativity and negative thoughts, we will continue to attract negative things in our lives. We will continue to not see the hand of God move in our lives. The problem isn't that God doesn't want to do it. The problem isn't that God can't do it. The problem isn't that God doesn't want it for you. The problem is your mindset. The problem is your mentality. The problem is you giving into those negative thoughts that are always entering your mind. You believe those thoughts that tell you that you can't do it. You believe those thoughts that tell you that you are not enough. You believe those thoughts that tell you that that type of blessing is not meant for somebody like you. You believe those thoughts that tell you that because the way you look, you cannot walk into this thing that you desire to do. Your negativity is blocking God from being able to move in your life. Your negativity is blocking God from being able to do the things that he promised to do in your life. It's not that he doesn't value what he said. It's not that he lied to you about what he said. The problem is you have free will and you have the decision to choose if you want to trust God or if you want to trust those negative thoughts that the devil has implanted in your mind. And you have been going the devil's way. You have been giving into the devil's tactics. You have been believing the things that the devil said about you instead of trusting and holding on to the things that God said about you, instead of trusting and holding on to the things that God promised you. As long as you continue to give into the negative thoughts that comes inside your mind, you will never progress forward. You will never see the hand of God fully move in your life because negativity cancels out faith. God cannot work from a place of negativity. God does not operate in a place of negativity. God does not like when you tell him what you can't do or what he can't do or what will never happen for you. God cannot work with that. If you want to see God's hand move in your life, you're going to have to cancel out that negativity and start focusing on your faith. Faith is what causes prosperity, abundance, and God's promises to come to pass in your life. You have to hold on to hope. You have to operate in faith. You have to focus on the positive instead of focusing on the negative. You have to give into the positive instead of giving into the negative. And I don't want you to feel bad for having negative thoughts because at the end of the day, they're normal. Every person on this earth has thought negatively before. But there are two types of responses that you can have to negative thoughts. The first response is to understand that it's a lie, let them go, and not even entertain them. And the second response is to hold on to them, to start believing them, to give into them, to let them become who you are, to let them influence you and reshape your identity, reshape your personality, reshape who you are. And you're going to have to ask yourself, what type of person do you want to be? Are you going to start responding like person A, or are you going to continue responding like person B? Because as long as you continue responding like person B, you will remain stuck. As long as you continue responding like person B, God will never be able to get through to you because you believe those thoughts more than you believe God. Every time God tries to tell you who you are, you say, yeah, right, I can never do that. I can never be that. That doesn't sound like me. I don't look like that type of person. I don't act like that type of person. I don't have what that type of person normally has. Every time God tries to promise you something, you say, yeah, right, that will never happen for me. You believe those thoughts more than you believe God because you allowed those thoughts to become who you are. You allowed those thoughts to influence you and reshape your personality to believe that you are that type of person. And so even when someone as powerful as God tries to convince you that he has more for you, you believe those thoughts more than you believe him. If you continue to respond like person B, you will never see the hand of God fully move in your life. You're going to have to start responding like person A. You're going to have to start letting those thoughts fly off your shoulder. You're going to have to start throwing those thoughts out. You're going to have to stop entertaining those thoughts. You're going to have to stop allowing those thoughts to dictate who you are. And the very first thing that you need to do in order to do this is you're going to have to start removing things that enhances those negative thoughts. Right now, you are weak. Right now, you don't have what it takes to walk away from those thoughts. If those thoughts come into your head, you're going to give in. If those thoughts come into your head, you're going to believe them. You are going to have to start removing things that plants those negative seeds in your mind. And the very first thing that you're going to have to reflect on and start removing is people. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever had an idea or something that you were very excited about and you went around and you started telling people? Maybe it was people that you were close to, it was people that you loved, and their response was negative. Maybe they looked at you like you were crazy. They told you that you can't do that. They told you that you can't afford that. They told you that it will never happen for you. They told you something negative. And you walked away and you went throughout your day and you realized that that excitement that you felt about that idea started to die. Every hour that passed, you got less excited about the thing that you were so eager to do. Why does that happen? It happens because when we talk to people, we allow them to plant seeds in us. And eventually those seeds will grow and grow and grow and have an effect on what we do. And people can plant two types of seeds in us. They can plant positive seeds. Those types of seeds will grow inside you and motivate you to keep going. Those types of seeds will provide you comfort and make you feel like you have support and motivate you to keep going. But there's another type of seed that people can plant inside of you, and that seed is negativity. That seed is poison. That seed comes in and get inside your harvest and it kills your dreams. It kills your desires. It stops you. It blocks you. It aborts you. Something that was growing inside you is now aborted because this seed of poison was planted inside of you. We have to stop allowing people to abort our desires. We have to stop allowing people to plant negative seeds inside of us. You need to pay attention to the people in your circle. Who are the people that you talk to on a daily basis? Who are the people that you talk to on a weekly basis? Every time that you have a desire, every time that you have an idea, every time that God speaks to you and tells you to do something, who are the people that you are going to? And pay attention to what they are saying. Are they planting seeds of possibility in you? Are they planting seeds of abundance in you? Are they planting seeds of positivity in you? Are they planting seeds of prosperity in you? Or are they killing your dreams? How do you feel after you talk to them? Do you feel excited? Do you feel motivated? Do you feel supported? Or do you feel like, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I don't have what it takes. Maybe I should stop. Are they aborting the mission? Are they aborting your dreams? Are they aborting the things that God is trying to do in your life? If they are, then that is a sign that it's time to remove them from this season. You don't have to cut them off completely, but right now, while you are working to get to where you are trying to go, right now, while you are working to fulfill the promises that God planned for you, you cannot talk to this person. You need to move in silence. You cannot let your right hand know what your left hand is doing. You have to stop going to them with your plans. You have to stop going to them with your ideas. You have to stop going to them with God's promises for your life. Tell them what you did instead of telling them what you're doing. Remove these people and stop allowing them, stop giving them an opportunity to kill the things that God is trying to do for you. Another thing that you might have to remove in this season because it causes a lot of negativity in you is the news. And this one is going to offend a lot of people, especially my family, because my family loves watching the news. But if we are being honest, the news is full of nothing but negativity. Name the last time you watched the news and you saw something positive. Name the last time that you watched the news and you felt positivity from it. The news spreads negativity and fear. It is designed to kill your dreams. It is designed to kill your mindset. It is designed to reshape your mindset and make you believe that you cannot do certain things because the world is crazy. It is designed to pump fear in you. It is designed to kill your faith. It is designed to kill your hope. It is designed to keep you from trying and moving into the things that God has told you to do. And I know some people, especially from my generation, is probably listening to this and you're like, I don't even watch the news, so this doesn't, apply to me. But the news does not always come from actually watching the physical news. Sometimes you get news from the shade room. Sometimes you get news from TMZ. Sometimes you get news from social media. Sometimes you get news from people. I remember a couple weeks ago, I was hanging out with one of my friends. And I don't really keep up with the news. I don't really watch it or anything. But when we were hanging out, she told me something that she saw on the news due to inflation. And before I had this conversation with her, I was completely fine. I had all the faith in the world. I was trusting God, like everything was fine. And after me and her had this conversation, a couple hours passed and I realized that I was panicking. I realized that I had anxiety. I realized that my trust for God was going down because she planted a seed in me from something that she saw on the news. I didn't have to physically watch the news to see it, but she told it to me. I didn't have to physically watch the news to hear about what was going on. So you have to monitor, how do you keep up with what's going on in the world? Where do you hear about the crazy, fearful things that are happening in the world? Do you hear about it from social media? Do you hear about it from your friends? Do you actually watch the news? Do you keep up with gossip channels? Where do you hear about what is going on? And this is not to say that you should just hide your head and pretend like nothing is going on, but sometimes God wants to shift your focus. Sometimes God cannot do what he's trying to do in you. Sometimes God cannot rebuild up your faith. Sometimes God cannot use you when you are focused on all the negative things that are going on in this world. Sometimes God is saying you don't have to hide from it. You don't have to run from it. You don't have to pretend that it's not happening, but I want you to focus on me. I want you to shift your focus on me. I want you to pay attention to me. Stop paying attention to that. Stop looking over there at inflation. Stop looking over there at all the killings and mass shootings that's happening in the world. Stop focusing on that, because as long as you focus on that, it will kill your faith. In the story that I told you, I was completely fine. But after my friend told me something that was going on with inflation, I immediately panicked. The day went on and that seed was planted inside of me, and it was birthing panic. It was birthing anxiety. It was taking my focus off of God. It was taking my focus off of what God told me. It was taking my focus off of what God promised me. Sometimes God is not saying that you have to run from it, but he's saying if you focus on it, you will start trusting that more than you trust me. If you keep your focus on it, you will start believing in that more than you believe in me. So in this season, you're going to have to remove the news. You're going to have to remove the ways that you keep up with what's going on in the world. The news is always going to keep you in a state of negativity, and it's going to keep you blocked away from God. Another thing that we're going to have to remove if we want to create a positive mentality is our upbringing. Your childhood and the way that you were raised is the biggest factor on the mindset that you adapt. You tend to think like the people who raised you. You tend to think around the ways that you were taught. There is a reason why people say that the easiest person to manipulate is a child, because a child is very vulnerable. They look to adults for guidance, and they believe literally anything that you tell them. Why do you think that you can tell a child that Santa is real, but you can't tell an adult that? Because children are more vulnerable and easy, and they believe you more than an adult would. It takes a lot of convincing to get an adult to believe the things that you want them to believe, but you can tell a child anything and they will believe it. There are things that people told me in my childhood that has stuck with me till this day. And the problem with that is that everything that people taught us when we were children are not right. Everything that we were taught as children does not honor God. Everything that we were taught as children was not positive. And some of the things that you were taught in your childhood, you are still holding on to. And it's playing a factor in why you have the mindset that you have. It's playing a factor in the negative mindset that you have adapted. It's playing the factor in why those thoughts that are in your head is coming to you. Sometimes you're going to have to acknowledge that although people in your childhood meant well, although they didn't intentionally mean to kill your dreams, although they didn't intentionally mean to put negativity into you, they did. And even though they didn't have ill intentions, this mentality that you have adapted because of it is not good. It's toxic and it needs to go. Sometimes you're going to have to take the journey and you're going to have to look into your childhood. You're going to have to look into your upbringing. You're going to have to think about the things that people said to you. You're going to have to think about the things that people taught you. You're going to have to think about the ways that people responded to you. I remember in my childhood when I had big dreams and I had a wild imagination and I would say certain things, some people's responses was like, girl, you can't do that. Not only would they tell me that I can't do it, they will also list reasons why I couldn't do it to help me further believe that this thing that I desired, this big, wild imagination idea that I had was not possible for me. But I had to let that go. You may be thinking that this is silly. You may be thinking that, yeah, people said crazy things to me in my childhood, but I'm not still holding on to it. But that is the root to why you think the way you think. That is the root to why you have the mindset that you have. That is the root to why you have the mentality that you currently possess. You cannot fully change until you let go of what you were taught. You cannot hold on to the past while trying to move into the new. There is a reason why God tells you to let go of what you currently know when he's trying to bring you something new. He's saying that you are holding on to what your mother taught you. He's saying you are holding on to what your grandmother said to you. And if you really want to do the things that I promised you, if you really want to transform your mentality, if you really want to let go of negativity and create an abundance mindset, you're going to have to let go of your upbringing. You're going to have to let go of the things that humans taught you. I understand that it was your mother. I understand that it was your grandmother. I understand that you love them, but they do not know better than me. They could only teach you what they thought was best. And sometimes what they thought was best was not the best. The mentality that they had was passed down from generation to generation. You thought that they knew best, but they were passing down negativity. They were passing down generational curses. And God is saying, I'm trying to use you to stop the curse. I'm trying to use you to break the curse. I'm trying to use you to do something new in your bloodline. I'm trying to use you to do something new in your family. And I can't do it if you're currently holding on to what your family taught you in the past. You're going to have to let go of your upbringing. You're going to have to let go of your childhood. You're going to have to let go of the toxic things that you were taught. And you're going to have to fully follow me. There's a reason why God said he wants to make you new. There's a reason why God said he wants to transform you. He can't do it if you're holding on to what you already had. He can't do it if you're holding on to the things that you were already taught. He can't do it if you're currently holding on to the mindset that you had your entire life. He's saying, let it go and trust me. Let it go and give it to me. Let me renew it. Let me perfect it. Let me make this toxic mentality something beautiful. Let me birth abundance and prosperity in you. Let go of your upbringing and your childhood. And when you do, you'll realize that those negative thoughts are going to start dying down. Those negative thoughts are going to start going away. And the last thing that you want to remove is your insecurities. We all have things that we are insecure of, and we normally look at our insecurities as something that's a flaw. We look at our insecurities as something that we should be ashamed of. And when we feel shamed, we open the door for negativity to come into our lives. If you feel insecure about your voice and God is trying to use you to start a podcast, you'll start having thoughts telling you that you're not good enough, that nobody will want to listen to you. You'll listen to other people's podcasts and start comparing yourself to their voice. You'll start coming up with ideas as to why they are better than you, as to why you don't measure up to them. Your insecurities will birth negativity in you. Your insecurities will give you excuses as to why you aren't good enough. Your insecurities will make you feel ashamed when you're doing the things that God called you to do. Your insecurities will make you feel ashamed when you're trying to move into the things that God was telling you to do. Sometimes you might find the strength to actually do it. Sometimes you might be successful at it, but you cannot enjoy that success because you are embarrassed. You are embarrassed because you still have negative thoughts that you believe about this insecurity. There may not be anyone who's actually telling you this. You may actually do the podcast and people love it. But because you still have that thought in your head, you cannot enjoy the success of your podcast. If you are embarrassed by the way that you look and God tells you to start a TikTok account and you blow up and you get 1 million followers, you will not be able to fully enjoy that success because you're looking at yourself and you're looking at every video that you produce and you feel ashamed. In order for you to fully have abundance, in order for you to fully fulfill God's promises, not just by getting the promises, but also by enjoying the promises, you're going to have to let go of your insecurities because your insecurities is one of the biggest things that opens doors for negativity, especially when you view your insecurity as a flaw, especially when you view your insecurity as something that you should be ashamed of. Let go of the shame. Stop viewing it as a flaw. Learn to love the not so pretty parts of you. Learn to love the parts of you that you don't think is the best. Learn to acknowledge your flaws. Learn to accept your flaws. Learn to live in your flaws and stop allowing the devil to use that as a way to get to you. Are you enjoying this episode so far? Is this episode teaching you how to let go of negative thoughts? If so, I want you to do me 2 favors. Favor number 1, I want you to leave a review and let me and others know how you are enjoying the show. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this episode. Leave an honest review and let me and others know how you are enjoying the show. And favor number 2, if you know anyone who is struggling to let go of negative thoughts, maybe they're trying everything they can, but these negative thoughts is just blocking them from seeing the hand of God move in their lives, I want you to send this episode to them. Let this episode motivate and encourage them the same way that it is motivating and encouraging you. Now let's get back to the show. You have to understand that your negative thoughts affect more than just you. Every single person on this earth projects. We give people what we have to give. And you can either give people positivity or you can give them negativity. You can't give them something that you don't have. And if you continue to operate from a negative mindset, if you continue to give in to those negative thoughts, you will continue to project that negativity onto other people. There is a reason why every time you go to other people and you tell them a desire that you have, you tell them an idea that you have, you tell them something that God promised to do for you, they project their negativity onto you. You might resent them feeling like they killed your dream, but what you fail to realize is that all they had was negativity. All they had was negative thoughts. They don't think positively. They don't have an abundance mindset. They don't have a you can do it mindset. They don't have that in them. They projected what they had onto you, and you will do the same thing. If you do not get out of this mindset, every time that somebody comes to you with an idea, you will kill their dream. You will be the person speaking that negativity into them. You will be the person giving them reasons why they can't do it. You will project your insecurities onto them. You will project your upbringing onto them. Maybe y'all came from the same place. Maybe y'all were raised in the same environment. Maybe y'all were raised in the hood together. And when they come to you and tell them something that they're trying to do, you project the fact that you're insecure, the fact that your family told you that you can never do that because of where you came from. You give that to them. You start telling them, girl, you were raised in the hood. Nobody's looking at you. Nobody's taking you serious. You can never do that. You start to project your mentality onto other people. You start to give them that negative energy. You start to spread that negative energy. That negativity is a virus. It's contagious. You have an effect on every single person who comes across you. And you have to ask yourself, do you want to get in the way of what God is trying to do for somebody else? Do you want to be the reason why somebody made the decision not to walk into their God-given promise? because your negativity spread onto them, because they made the mistake of coming to you with something that God told them to do, and you aborted their mission. You killed their dream. You projected your insecurities onto them, and you blocked them from doing the things that God told them to do. You do not want to stand in the way of somebody else's breakthrough. You do not want to stand in the way of what God is trying to do for someone else. What type of thoughts are you going to project? What type of thoughts are you going to spread? Because we talk a lot about having an impact. Everybody's goal is to impact people. But are you going to impact them in a positive way, or are you going to impact them in a negative way? See, people think about impact and they think of positivity. I made a change in this person's life. I made a difference in this person's life. But there's a negative difference. There's a negative change. What type of impact are you going to have? What are the things that people are going to say about you when you die? Are they going to say that you were such a positive, supportive person? You were a go-getter. You always talked positivity. You always had good things to say. You always inspired other people. Or are they going to talk about how you always said you couldn't do it? Every time somebody tried to come to you with something they wanted to do, you always told them why they couldn't do it. You always gave excuses. You never did anything. The only impact you had was negative. The only purpose you had on this earth was negative. What is the legacy that you are going to leave? We also have to understand that the negative thoughts that we have will affect the mindset that our children will birth. Like I said earlier, when we were talking about your childhood, sometimes the things that people told you, the things that people said to you, the things that people taught you, you still believe to this day. The reason why it's so hard for you to trust God, the reason why it's so hard to you to transform, the reason why it's so hard for you to adapt to what God is trying to do for you, the reason why it's so hard for you to believe the things that God promised you is because of what your parents taught you, because of what your family taught you, because of what your teachers taught you, because of what everyone around you taught you. You had to let go of what everyone around you in your childhood taught you to adapt a new mentality, to adapt a better mentality. And see, when God talks about leaving a legacy and passing down wealth from generation to generation, passing down abundance from generation to generation, the reason why he wants us to do that is because life is supposed to be easier for our children. Our children are not supposed to go through the same struggles as us. Our children are not supposed to have the exact same thing, overcome the exact same hurdles as us. It's supposed to be easier for them. And when we think about leaving a legacy and passing down wealth from generation to generation, we only think about money. But what about an abundance mentality? What about the things that you taught them? What about the things that you said to them? What about the things that you made them believe? Is it fair for your children to have to heal from the negative mindset that you produced into them, that you birthed into them, that they adapted from being raised by you? See, God wants you to transform your mind, because if you don't, your children are going to have to go through the same struggles when they get older as to reframing their mind, reshaping their mind, transforming their mind. But the goal is for it to be easier for them. The goal is for them to not have to do that. The goal is for them to be raised in a family that taught them about abundance. They already have a prosperity mindset by the time they hit 18. They already have a mindset that they can do everything they put their mind to by the time they hit 20. They don't have to go through that struggle, that hurdle of reshaping their mind. This is a part of the legacy that you leave. What is the legacy that you're going to leave to your children? Forget the money for a minute, because that's all we think about. What about the mentality? What about the things that you made them feel like they can do? What about the things that you told them God could do for them? Did you make them insecure? Did you make them believe that they couldn't? Did you make them produce a limited mindset? Did you make them have a lack mindset? What is the mentality that you are leaving to your children? Because as long as you hold on to those negative thoughts, trust me, you are not producing positivity into your children. And I say all this to say that your negative thoughts affect the way that God can use you. The way that God can use you to impact everyone that comes around you, your family, your children, your children's children. It affects your legacy. It affects the people who trust you enough with their ideas. It affects the purposes that God planned for you. See, there may be things that God is calling you to do. There may be businesses that God is calling you to start. There may be ministries that God is calling you to produce. There may be podcasts and YouTube channels that God is calling you to make, but your negative thoughts is stopping and blocking you from doing it. And there's a reason why God is telling you to do it. There's a purpose as to why God is telling you to do it. He's not just telling you to do it for you. He's telling you to do it because there are people called to you. There are people destined to learn from you. There are people destined to be motivated by you. And every time that you say no, every time that you give into those negative thoughts, every time that you stop, every time that you procrastinate, you are stopping and blocking somebody else from reaching God. Maybe you are called to help others with their negative thoughts. Maybe you are called to transform other people's mind. Maybe when people see you, maybe when people come across your channel, maybe when people come across your ministry, maybe when people come across your business, they are going to reshape their mind. And every time you say no, you are keeping somebody stuck. This negativity affects more than just you. It affects everyone around you. It affects every purpose God had for you. Have you ever dreamed of making your voice heard and sharing your message with the world? Well, it's time to turn that dream into a reality by starting your very own podcast. I understand that many aspiring podcasters are held back by the worries of cost, complexity, and the time it takes to launch a podcast. That is why I'm excited to announce my new training program that has all the tools and knowledge you need to launch your very own podcast for free. My training will guide you through every single step of your podcast journey. You will learn how to plan, release, market, and grow your podcast from start to finish. So if you're ready to take a leap of faith and share your message with the world, click the link in the description below to access my new podcast training. Now let's get back to the show. So I want you to make a decision right now. Are you going to continue believing the negativity that the devil is putting in your head? Or are you going to let go of those thoughts and trust God? And if you made the decision to trust God, then let's go over a few ways that you can create a positive mentality. Adapting a positive mentality is not going to be easy. You're still going to have negative thoughts come inside your head. But remember, it's not the thoughts that's the problem. The problem is how you respond to the thoughts. So every time a negative thought comes inside your head, I want you to ask God to help your unbelief. You cannot overcome these thoughts on your own. You have to surrender the thoughts to God. You have to give the thoughts to God. Every time you have a thought, give it to God and say, God, please help my unbelief. Please help my unbelief in this area. Please help my unbelief with my finances. Please help my unbelief with my faith. Please help my unbelief in this area. Please help me in this area. And if you continue to seek him every time you have a thought, if you continue to give it to him every time you have a thought, you will begin to see him help you. You will begin to see the opposite happening in your life. And speaking of the opposite, the next thing that I want you to do when you have a negative thought, after you ask God to help your unbelief, speak the opposite of that thought. If the thought is telling you that you can't do it, then you want to speak that you can do it. If the thought is telling you that you are not enough, then you want to speak that you are enough. Speak whatever the opposite of that thought is, because the opposite is positive. And remember that life and death is in the power of the tongue. Life and death is in what you say. And if you say the opposite of what you are thinking, you're going to start producing the opposite. You're going to start attracting the opposite. You're going to start seeing the opposite happen in your life. It will be a lot easier for you to stop giving into that negativity. When you find yourself having negative thoughts, especially consistently, like if it's happening multiple times a day, if it's becoming really, really hard for you to not believe it and for you to not give into it, then I want you to grab a piece of paper and I want you to write 3 to 5 reasons why that thought is wrong. Why is it wrong? Why can the opposite happen? How can the opposite happen? Writing this down is going to prove to yourself that the thought is a lie. If the thought is saying you cannot start a podcast, write 3 to 5 reasons why that thought is a lie. I can start a podcast because, and write the reason why it can happen. Read that. Reflect on it. Every time that thought comes into your mind, go back to this piece of paper and read it. Reflect on it, because this is telling the devil, this is also telling the thought that you are a liar. You're lying to me. It can happen. This is why. And as you start to actually see it on paper, you'll start to actually see it happening in your life. And the last way to overcome a negative thought is by proving the thought wrong. See, the problem with a lot of people is that when you have the thought, you automatically believe it. It didn't even happen. It didn't even come true, but you just believed it. But sometimes, in order to fully get the thought to go away, you're going to have to do it, no matter if you feel insecure, no matter if you feel afraid, no matter if you feel ashamed. You're going to have to do the thought and prove that thought wrong. When you do it and when you succeed, you will realize that this thought was lying to you the whole time. That thought was telling you that you should be insecure about this. You should be insecure about your face, but you started that YouTube channel. You started that TikTok. You blew up. People love you. People look up to you. People are commenting saying how amazing and how beautiful you are. You proved the thought wrong. You started that podcast even though you were insecure about your voice, and people listen to your podcast and they love hearing from you. They compliment your voice all the time. Whatever that thought is, prove it wrong. Do it. Do not let the devil win. Do not let the thought win. Prove that thought wrong. Do it and succeed. So if you do all of these things, if you remove everything that is enhancing your negative thoughts, whether it's people, the news, letting go of your upbringing, or learning to love your insecurities, if you make a decision to leave a positive impact on people, to project and spread positive energy and positive mentalities, and if you ask God to help any and all unbelief that you have, speak the opposite of your negative thoughts. Write down 3 to 5 reasons as to why that thought is wrong, and prove the thought wrong by doing it and succeeding. You will conquer your negative thoughts. You will be able to let go of your negative thoughts. And so my challenge for you this week is I want you to think about what is one of the biggest negative thoughts that you have been having recently. I want you to write down 4 reasons as to why that negative thought is wrong. Why is that thought lying to you? How is that thought lying to you? Write down 4 reasons why that thought is wrong. And so that is all that I have for you today. I want to thank you for listening to this episode. If you liked what you learned, make sure that you subscribe so that you get a notification every time a new episode is uploaded. Also, join my private Facebook group where we take these topics and we dive a lot deeper into them during the week. And if you want to stay connected to me, make sure that you follow me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Prospering with Christ. But that is all I have for you today, and I will see you next week.